What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Cavalier Connection podcast. I'm your host, Jack Lowe, joined as always by my dad, Jeff Lowe, and Jay Ballard. A big one coming up Friday night. How we doing tonight, Jay?
Doing great. The countdown's on. We're about 24 hours away, and I'm excited to make my first trip to Charlottesville for the season.
Dad.
Yeah, I'm super excited. We just got done with Jesse at Plant the Spear, and I'm fired up. I can't wait.
For sure. And we're going to be joined by Jesse from Plant the Spear here in just a few moments. So big shout out to him. He's doing a great job over there at Plant the Spear, and we'll get his promotion and stuff later. With that being said, though, Friday night, tomorrow night, whenever you're listening to this, probably tonight for most of you listening on the way up there to Charlottesville, it feels like history. A top 10 Florida State team is back in Charlottesville, and it's a blue out at Scott Stadium. Hoos fans still remember 1995 when Virginia stopped the Noles at the goal line and the next morning lined up at Mintzer's UVA imprinted sportswear to grab the Seminoles' Last Stand t-shirt. 30 years later, people still have those t-shirts, still share those memories. That is what Mintzer's is all about, being part of the moments you never forget. So don't just watch history this Friday night, wear it. Get your blue gear at Mintzer's and make your own memories. Mintzer's, wear Hoos gear up since 1948. You definitely want to go check out Mintzer's before the game Friday night. Get your blue apparel. We want all blue in the stands. And, be sure to go check out Mintzer's. Alrighty, and joining us now, Jesse from Plant the Spear. We were just on his podcast. A long time no see, Jesse, and we appreciate you joining us tonight. How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Excited. I'm glad to be on here. I know we just recorded just a few minutes ago, man, but it's kind of got us tuned up and ready to go. Got you thinking about the game. I'm really excited. I'm going to be headed to Charlottesville tomorrow morning, hitting the road nice and bright and early. Really can't wait for this game Friday night in Charlottesville. I've never been. It's going to be a new experience for me. Credentialed for this game, my first ever credentialed game. Thank you, Jack, for helping me with that again. So, man, really just excited for this one. I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, you got a scrappy UVA team, and you got a Florida State team that I don't know that any of us thought would be number 8 in the country at this point right now after 2-10 last year. But, I think that sets up. I mean, this is our first ACC game, our first road game, and our first night game. So it's a big one for us, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about us just joining you, just be prepared. A lot of this is going to be the exact same, but flip now. So similar
yeah, for sure.
But I want to start out very similar because I want to talk about, you guys beat Alabama to open the season. Coming in before that Alabama game, coming into this season, where were you expecting? For one, where were you expecting Florida State to be by the end of the season? But were you expecting them to be at a similar standpoint where they are now? And then, where was it after that Alabama win? Just talk a little bit about those preseason expectations and have they? I assume they've kind of exceeded their expectations a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny because when you come into the season coming off of 2-10, obviously Mike Norvell's seat was hot, but he has a massive buyout, so it was kind of like, where's the line in the sand where you're going to eat $60 million? And we thought anything less than 6-6 in a bowl game would probably get him fired, but that buyout is real, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you come into the season, I think we had said, like, man, we had a lot of change. So give me 8-4, maybe 9-3. A lot of people had us going 7-5. Yep. And I think if you can do that and it looks good, like you don't get blown out in a bunch of games and stuff, because we got Miami on the schedule. We had Clemson on the schedule. We had Alabama on the schedule. We had Florida on the schedule, which obviously 2 of those haven't turned out very good. And so, we were thinking like 8, you probably lose those 4 games. And then maybe if you can go 8-4, you feel good about it, right? Maybe you get some recruits and then you build momentum. There was a lot of apprehension about Gus Malzahn and was his success, so far in the rearview mirror that they're going to be able to do this. And so I think like you went into that Alabama game and we had said on our show, I think the Alabama game was the single most important game of Mike Norvell's career. Because if you go in there and you get dog walked in that game, it's going to be, oh, woe is me, here we go again from the 2-10 season. And so there's no moral victories in Tallahassee, right? Yeah. When you're a program like Florida State, you don't say, well, I hope we just lose by a little bit. But I think when you went into that game, you were like, man, if this game's 24-17, I can look at the schedule and I can find those 8 to 9 wins that I wanted. And so when you go in and I was at that game, I mean, we kind of manhandled Alabama. I mean, you kind of thumped them. And so I think it wasn't even like that you won. It's how you won. You punched Alabama in the mouth. You out-physicaled them. We ran for 230 yards. We held them under 100 yards of rushing. And so it was just like, wow, what Gus Malzahn was drawing things up, and we stormed the field, which we don't hardly ever do. That was super fun. But I think after that, and then you could have the argument about who Alabama is now. I think, they beat UL Monroe by 70. They beat Wisconsin. Wisconsin's not very good. For me, this weekend is huge, right? Because with Florida State, yes, we beat Alabama, but that was 3 weeks ago. We played two teams that don't move the needle for me at all, Kent State and East Texas A&M. So on Friday night, we get to play Virginia, a 3-1 team who's had a hot start. So that's a good measuring stick for us. Also, by the way, Alabama goes to Athens to play Georgia on Saturday. So if they go in there and they keep that within a score, I feel like what I saw against Alabama is real, and Florida State really does deserve that top 10 ranking. If we go up here and we lose to Virginia, or it's a 3-point game, and then, Alabama gets wiped off the field by 30 points against Georgia, maybe that wasn't really what we thought we were. So this is a big weekend improving where we're at. But to your point, I think after that first game, yeah, you have to basically take all those expectations, rip them up, and start over, because now where you were hoping to make a bowl game, the ACC championship and the playoffs are within sight, right? Because if you can beat them, and then Clemson is a dumpster juice right now, Florida can't move the ball on offense, you feel a lot better about those games. So really, as long as, when you look at betting favorites, Florida State outside of next week against Miami should probably be the betting favorite in every game. So if you do that, you're 11-1, you're probably going to make it to Charlotte. And so now the playoffs are on the table. But again, next week's going to be massive because we got Miami coming to town. So you do have to go back to the drawing board. And I definitely think you've had to expand what you think the season could be. But I don't think anybody saw 4 weeks into the season us being a top 10 team with, I don't want to say a blowout win of Alabama, but a dominant win over Alabama. I don't know that anybody saw that coming.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Jack, can I interject here?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing, and you mentioned the Miami game next week. Is there any indication that you guys might just be peeking just a little bit down the road?
It's impossible not to, I think. But I will say what made me feel really good, because I've been saying for a couple weeks on the show, like, guys, this is a trap game. Like, this is a trap/juju game. We do not do well. Like, I almost wish we were ranked number 11, because as a top 10 team in Charlottesville, it is bad news for us. And then you also have that on the other side. But the good thing is it's a Friday game, so you do have that extra day to prepare. Now, they're off this week, so there's no scoreboard watching there. But what really made me feel confident was when I heard both of our coordinators speak this week. You saw Gus Malzahn say that, look, it was fun beating up on, cupcakes or whatever, but the real season starts now. And then Tony White, our defensive coordinator, was like, look, man, this Virginia team does not, and Chandler Morris's quarterback does not get enough credit. He said, this is not one of the best offenses in the ACC. This is one of the best offenses in the country. And so he said, the guys understand the challenge ahead of them. So I do think maybe there was, but then, I'm not a big believer in bulletin board material. Everyone said, oh, Alabama's going to thump you because of what Tommy Castellano said. And the disrespect certainly was not addressed in that game. So I think maybe the throwback uniform things and stuff like that, maybe it got their attention a little bit more. It's possible. It is possible. But I think they know UVA is a good team, and I think they know it's going to be a fight. And this is our first road game, so we're going to see how that goes too.
They're welcome to think about Miami. Don't worry about it.
Right,
Don't worry about us lowly Wahoos in Charlottesville.
Yeah. Well, I will say this too. I think and I've said this before, I think what was almost more impressive than the Alabama win itself was the way they handled it afterwards. It wasn't like, yes, we stormed the field, we had a great time doing all that type of stuff. But then in the post-game pressers and all that stuff after the game, all you heard them talk about was this was one game. No one's giving us anything for winning one game. We have to move on now. Tony White said when they brought his name up for the UCLA job, he's like, man, I don't have time for that. I'm trying to go whip up on Kent State. So I do think they know it's out there, but I think they know if you stumble in Charlottesville, it's not going to mean the same, right? So you got to handle business one at a time. And this team has been, I'll give it to them, they've been very focused this year. They have not played with their food at all. You know, they had every excuse in the world to play down to Kent State, to play down to East Texas A&M, and they smashed them like they were supposed to. So I do think they're focused on this game. But it's out there. I mean, they're number 2 in the country. So not only is it Miami, it's a top 10 Miami team, and it's already been leaked that game day is going to be there as well. So breaking news on the show.
All right.
There you go. What is it about this Florida State team that inspired the big impact early this season so much? Is it a quarterback like Tommy Castellanos coming from Boston College who has been really explosive? There's other transfer pieces. The offensive line you mentioned on your show. What is the biggest piece that has led to a big win over Alabama, and now all of a sudden you're a top 10 team in the country?
I think there's a couple of different aspects to that, right? I think the first and foremost is the coordinators. I think so for Florida State, a lot of people always like to ask, well, how did 2-10 even happen? And I think there should have been changes on the coaching staff prior to the 2023 season, but how can you justify firing somebody when you just went 13-0? And so, like, for instance, our de facto offensive coordinator, because Mike Norvell was still the play caller, our offensive line coach was our by title only offensive coordinator. Well, he got fired. He's now at LSU, and LSU's rush offense is ranked outside the top 100. So, like, that's probably not a coincidence if you're a Florida State fan. That's not a surprise for us. So I think bringing in the new coordinators, I have fallen in love with Tony White. He is all business. When you listen to him after Alabama, you'd have thought we lost by 30 points. Gus Malzahn, I think the trepidation was there, but I think him as just an OC without all the head coach stuff, he's done really good in that role. And so you bring in 2 real high-level coordinators because, you know, Alex Atkins came from Charlotte. And then you had our defensive coordinator, Adam Fuller, came from Memphis, formerly of Marshall, I think. And now you've got a guy that came from Nebraska. You got a guy that come from UCF who's won a national championship as a coordinator. It's just a higher level of coaching. And then you add in the pieces from the transfer portal. 4 out of 5 new offensive linemen, all redshirt seniors, all with big size, all with experience. That has been probably the biggest, because our offensive line was a dumpster fire last year. That's what led to all the struggles. Tommy has been better than expected for sure. But I think a lot of that is, you know, Gus hasn't had a guy like Tommy since he was at Auburn with Nick Marshall. And I don't think Tommy has been in an offense that was really built for him with other pieces around him too. Like at Boston College, yeah, in 23, they let him run wild. But I always joke with people, like, he didn't have Zay Flowers. Name me one other Boston College receiver.
Right.
Pretty much nobody can do it, right? And so now it's like you have new pieces. So I think it's been a collection of everybody, but it's just been a big difference in coaching too. And I will say they went for more proven guys this time. In 24, we took a lot of backups from big name schools instead of guys like Jared Verse. We got Jared Verse from Albany that they found when they were scouting Syracuse. You know, we took a guy from Georgia last year who's a backup, and he was terrible. And so now you've got guys who have produced at the college level, not just looked good on a star sheet.
Yeah, for sure. And then we briefly mentioned Castellanos. What has the upgrade been from DJ Ugale, however you pronounce his name? I know you have a different name for him. What has the difference been from him to Castellanos, and how much of an impact has he been on this offense?
Yeah, I call him DJ Uagoaway because we want him as far away from Tallahassee as absolutely possible. And, you know, it's funny when you see him tossing touchdowns in the preseason with the Chargers, it's like, man, we've all been hoodwinked. I think he was a plant or something like that. But it's just been a big difference because, you know, when we got DJ, I think the thought process was, well, you got a guy who's got a cannon of an arm, and he's also mobile. He's big. He's kind of like a Cam Newton type of a body type quarterback there. Mm-hmm. But it's never been confirmed, but he had a leg sleeve on for most of the season. And so I think he was injured and he lost his mobility. Like he was a statue, the least mobile quarterback we've had in a long time. And most of our success came with Jordan Travis, who was a very mobile guy. At least you made defenses respect that. So not only was he not mobile, he was behind a terrible offensive line with receivers who couldn't catch. So it was just a really, really bad mix of things. And so now you bring in Tommy, who just really excels in this offense. He can use his legs. He's willing to use his legs. And so far, I mean, there will be mistakes, but so far he's been a much better passer than I think a lot of us expected. But he did talk about, since he's been at Florida State, he's had new resources open up to him, and he was able to work with a quarterback trainer. He was able to work with Cam Ward and some guys like that over the offseason. So I think that really kind of helped him up his game, and then just having better pieces around him. So he's been good. He's got really good command of the offense. He's very confident, obviously, with some of the things he said. So I think a lot of us was nervous in that first game. Can you go back that up? And once he did, man, he's been really good. He's number 1 in the country right now in big time throw rate, which is dropping it in a bucket downfield over 20 yards. I think he's number 3 in QBR in the country right now. And he's really only played about 8 quarters of football. So he's been a huge upgrade, and more towards like what we got with Jordan Travis when we had a lot of success.
Unfortunately, I feel like Virginia's ranked number 1 in the country and giving up the drop it in the bucket rate.
Yeah.
At 20 yards plus.
Yeah, that's something that we're hoping that Tommy can do. Now, a lot of those big throws, he had, I think, 2 of them against Alabama, but a lot of those did come against the lesser competition. So we'll be interested to see what he can do. But, this secondary, as respectfully I can put it, does look opportunistic for a quarterback if they want to air the ball out.
Hey, we got to send that to Coach Elliott. Play this. This is what Florida State's saying.
They're a great group of guys. Don't throw the ball against them. It's an iron curtain.
Coach Rudd, they're saying it.
Yeah. So going into this Virginia team, and you could speak on this on behalf of, the team in general, but going into this Virginia game, what position group, it could be offensive or defensive side of the ball, scares you the most about Florida State's roster? That, we talked about on your show how at Virginia, in my opinion, the scariest part is the secondary. We don't know what's going to happen when the deep ball comes against us. We haven't been very good. Is it somewhere on the defense, somewhere on the offense? Going into this Virginia game, what position group's going to have your eye the most on potentially giving something up?
Man, it's actually hard because I don't think there's been a weakness that's been exposed yet, but I think it's more about the matchups that worry me a little bit, right? Like, so we've had some guys in the secondary that's been banged up. They've kind of been rotating in and out. And so I think like Kent State got behind us on a route last week and they popped a 75-yard touchdown run, or excuse me, 75-yard touchdown pass. And so like, yes, they can get those things cleaned up, but at the same time, you're talking about a much, much better pass offense. So if you have any kind of, and I will say, like in the Alabama game, I think Jeremy Bernard, their receiver, had like 165 yards receiving on us. So while we did make a couple of their guys basically a non-factor, at the same time, you also gave some stuff up. So I would say, like, I feel very confident in the secondary, but I would just say the secondary may be the most because there are some, like Jerry Wilson, the corner, the transfer from Houston, he's really good. The other guys are new starters this year. So you got kind of a couple pieces that, we've seen them. They looked good against Alabama, but at the same time, this is a really legitimate passing offense. The other thing I think that I'm kind of watching in this game that I would like to see more of from Florida State is more pressure up front from the defensive line, right? We brought some pressure against Alabama. They got 19 pressures, 3 sacks on Ty Simpson, but we really didn't create a ton. Like, we just haven't just been a menace in the pocket the last couple games. And I think that's because they really didn't have to do that. But was it they couldn't, or was it because they just didn't need to? And so I think really when I look at this defensive line, I'm like, man, you got to be careful with Chandler Morris because you play with fire, you will get burnt, right? If you get back there and get pressure and you don't get him on the ground, he's going to hurt you with his legs. So I would like to see the defensive line have a big game in this one. But, that secondary, they've given up a couple of things in coverage. So, man, against this offense, that's probably the one point I would push to.
Yeah. And
Jesse, I feel like I can trust you. So I may, after we get off, go ahead and give you my DraftKings username and password, and as you're traveling down,
before you get in the state of Virginia.
Oh yeah.
I see this game being somewhere in the 70 to 80 total range, and I think Vegas has it around 57.5 last I saw.
That's way too low, I think.
I think they're going to hit that over early second half.
I caught me a nice little 4-game parlay the other day. I missed a 6th one. Daggone South Florida screwed me against Miami, but I had a couple. I had almost hit a 6th one for a real nice payday. So just let me know. But I'm hit or miss on those now. I do pretty bad most of the time because I just wing it. But I think the over is going to hit in this game.
Yeah,
they're begging you to take it.
Yeah,
that's what always scares me.
Yeah, exactly. This will end up being 20-17 or something like that after we talked it up.
7-3 at halftime.
Exactly.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what should Virginia fans, and like I said, we're, at least for me, I'm most afraid of the Virginia secondary. On the offensive side of the ball for Florida State, what should Virginia fans be the most afraid of? Because you have a dynamic quarterback like Castellanos, a receiving core who looks really good. Which, by the way, is Square White playing? I wasn't too
Yeah,
sure.
he's good to go. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's really quick. He's
Yeah.
a very good receiver, obviously. You guys have ran with 9 different running backs,
Yep.
all with a lot of, I think at least 4 over 100 yards. You have a receiver that's getting the ball a lot in the backfield. Just talk to me a little bit about what offensive piece should Virginia be most afraid of? Should Virginia fans be most afraid of?
So the worst news for Virginia fans is Florida State is coming into this game as healthy as they've been, right? We're basically getting now we've lost a couple guys for an extended period, but we're basically getting everybody back. I think that was the fortunate part of having East Texas A&M, then a bye week, then Kent State. So we kind of didn't need a lot of guys. Like Squirrel could have went last week. There's no point.
Mhm.
And the starters really have only played about 4 quarters in 3 weeks. So they should also be pretty fresh coming into this game because they haven't played in the second half in the last 2 weeks, and then they had a bye week in between. But the hard part really about narrowing it down to one is, and this is kind of crazy to even talk about. Again, I mean, we're coming from a team that had, like, we were bringing slingshots last year. Not even so, we were bringing water guns to a cannon fight last year. This year, we just feel like a battleship. Like, there are so many weapons to choose from when you look at this offense. I mean, it all starts, of course, with Tommy Castellanos. Obviously, he can hurt you with his legs. That's a factor too, and they'll use him. Right? We've seen a lot of quarterback power. We've seen them run the ball a lot with him in ways I didn't even think they would do. And then when you talk about the backfield, I mean, you're right. We got a couple of guys there with Gavin Sawchuk, the kind of the veteran back of the group, of Oklahoma transfer, who was really, really explosive at Oklahoma. He just dealt with a lot of injury and never really got the lead back role there. But he had almost 100 yards last week against Kent State. He's really good. And then we have a freshman, Usman Kroma, who is one of the best freshman running backs I've seen in my lifetime. Like, the kid, he looks like a 5th-year senior, and he is really, really good. We flipped him from Georgia, if that says anything. So he's a good one too. But it's a deep running back room. But I think really where the weapons that can concern you in this game for Virginia, just looking at the matchups with that secondary, this wide receiver core has a number of ways they can beat you. You have Deuce Robinson, USC transfer on the outside. He's 6'6", and he can run. He can run past a DB. That's what makes him scary. He can also go up and get the ball. I think he had 172 yards in the first quarter against the FCS school. And then you also have Squirrel White. He hit a big pass for like 40, 50 yards against Alabama, where he just got behind the DB, and you're not catching him. And that's all there is to it. And then you also have Mekhi Danzy, who has really come on the last couple of games. He is a track star. Like, we didn't know what he was going to be because he had run track in the spring. He wasn't even in spring practice, but he is like a kind of a record-setting track guy. So he's got speed. And I think he had 165 yards in the first quarter against Kent State. So, like, he's a guy, he's got 9 touches on the year. And he's a redshirt freshman, which is kind of insane. He's got 9 total touches on the year. 6 of them have gone for over 25 yards. He's averaging 33.9 yards per touch, and 2 of them have been touchdowns. I mean, he's the guy, like, you'll see, we've done this it's like a Gus Malzahn calling card, the reverse for a touchdown. Every game so far it's happened. Now they're going to play off of that eventually, but I would say, and there's Jalen Lucas, a little, he could probably fit in Deuce's pocket. He's a little guy. He's fast too, but then we get Randy Pittman, the tight end back. He's a UCF transfer. Now, he hasn't really been the most productive offensively, but he absolutely depleted a Alabama linebacker on a block. So he's a tough, hard-nosed guy. But, man, I would say the receiving core is pretty dangerous. It's just whether Tommy can hit them in a good place or not. But, the most known names, Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White. But Mekhi Danzy is one I'm telling you. That's one to watch out, because the guy, if you get him in open field, he's got size, he can catch, he's got hands, and you're just not going to catch him because he's a track guy.
Yeah. And moving to the defensive side of the ball, you already mentioned a couple times Chandler Morris and what he can do. What would you, and I know you're not a part of the coaching staff, but in your opinion, what is the best way for Florida State to stop this Virginia offense, who I've mentioned it before, in my opinion, can compete with almost anybody in the country. But what's your opinion on trying to stop them and also keeping them from converting on third down and in the red zone, something that they've been very good at as well?
Yeah, something that what really makes me worried against this offense is when you look at both, because we talked about this on our show. I tend to throw out FCS or lower level G5 stats and just kind of focus on teams with a pulse. And when you look at what they've done against the two Power 4 defenses that they've played, now you can argue whether Stanford has a pulse or not. I think they're on life support right now. That program is. But the defenses haven't been really good. So I'm curious to see what Virginia does against a good defense, right? I think NC State right now and Stanford are both ranked outside the top 100. Florida State's is 12th. So it's going to be a monumentally different challenge than what they faced against those two teams. But in those two games, Virginia has put up over 500 offensive yards, over 200 rushing yards, and over 30 points. And that's, I mean, NC State, they got athletes. They're Division I players. And so you're putting up numbers on there. So when I look at this, I'm like, do you sell out to stop the run? Because, I mean, Jamar Taylor, he's legit. Like, he runs hard. He seeks contact. He falls forward. He's a tough running back. And so you don't want him to run for over 200 yards in this game. But at the same time, now you're putting the game in Chandler Morris's arms, which I don't like because I think he is the key to winning this game if he goes off through the air. And they have some pretty good receivers there as well. I mean, I think it's Trell Harris and Cam Ross. Those are two guys really to watch out for. And then, like I mentioned, Sage Ennis only has 4 receptions, but 2 have been for touchdowns. So I think if it were me, I would probably kind of sit back a little bit more in zone and let them run the ball. Let's see if you can run against this defensive line, against this front seven, and let's try and take the pass away because I think that's where Virginia is more explosive and can really kind of hurt you with the pass game. So I would probably give them a little bit on the ground. And because, you know, again, I just wonder how they will do against maybe a little bit bigger, more athletic front seven that we got. And we do run a 3-3-5 defense. So you are going to see a lot of crazy stuff. It's very confusing to offenses. You're going to see a lot of simulated pressures, a lot of stunts, a lot of twists on the defensive line. They're going to try and confuse you and get you off your spot. So, I mean, it's going to be a big challenge for Virginia. But if it's me, I'm going to give them a little bit on the ground because Chandler Morris, to me, is the X factor in this game for Virginia.
For sure. A couple more for you. We appreciate your time, Jesse. Before we get to your final score prediction, I know you mentioned on your show you have a couple keys to the game for Florida State to pick up a win tomorrow night. And so talk a little bit about your keys to Florida State winning.
Yeah, so for me, I think the keys to victory for Florida State, right, from our perspective, is I think first and foremost, you have to play a clean game, right? And I mean, I mean this as respectfully as possible to Virginia, right? We faced a team that had a lot more talent than we did in Alabama, and we won. So these things don't always matter, right? But when you look at like the 247 team talent composite, in the ACC, Florida State is 3rd, Virginia is 15th, right? You should go up here and win this game. That's why you're favored, although it's only by a touchdown. So maybe Vegas knows something we don't, right? So I think the first way you let a team that you feel like you should be in a game is by not playing a clean game, right? Look at NC State Duke last week. NC State outgained them by over 100 yards. Duke had 100 yards in penalties, and NC State lost because they had 4 turnovers. So I think in this game, and, hey, let's keep this skeleton in the closet here. The last 2 times Tommy's played Virginia, he's had at least 3 to 4 turnovers. So I think the first step is to play a clean game. First game on the road, you can't have drive-killing penalties. You can't have turnovers. You can't do those things to let Virginia back in the game if you're ahead, right? And then so the second one for me is to get pressure on Chandler Morris, but do not let him escape the pocket because let's be honest, you cannot let him sit back there and pick you apart because he will. And those receivers are good enough to find space and coverage and to exploit that. And so I don't think you can let him sit back there. But again, you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. If you go back there and you don't, that's busted plays typically go for more yards than a scheduled play, right? Because you're just off schedule. And so I think that's the big one too. And then the third key for me was to throw the ball. Right? Gus Malzahn. So far, he's typically 60-40. We've actually run it about 70% of the time. I mean, just because we really haven't had to throw the ball a lot. But when you know that the secondary is the weakness for Virginia and you know you have a good receiving core that's healthy, you have to throw the ball. You have to try and take advantage of that. Now, granted, we did run for 230 yards against Alabama, so I think you're going to try and run the ball, right? That's what Gus Malzahn's DNA is. So I think they're going to try and run the ball. But, man, I think if Virginia tries to take away the run, I think you're going to have to try and put the game on Tommy's arm and let him throw it. And, you know, I joked in our show where I was like, you know that old saying, I wish a mother would? Like, I wish they would load the box because I want us to have to throw against that secondary. That's what I want. Because if you take away the run in the Gus Malzahn offense, it's not a drop back passing offense. So I think Virginia is probably, if I had to guess, if I were their defensive coordinator, I think they're going to load the box and they're going to make Tommy prove he can throw the ball on you. Because again, he only threw for 160 yards against Alabama. So I think that's probably what they want to do. So I think you're going to have to be able to throw it in this game if you want to win.
For sure. And Jesse, we appreciate your time. You were pretty nice to us on your show. You didn't make us give a score prediction. You just kind of pick a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
But if you already have yours out there in the public, we're going to throw it to you. We're going to put you on the spot. What is your final score prediction for tomorrow night?
Yeah, so I will say it's funny. A lot of we always ask for the score prediction from our listeners in the comments, and I think Florida State fans are very confident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little too confident. I don't think there's some of the 45-17s and things like that out there. I don't think that's going to be the case because I think Virginia is a legitimate team. We haven't played on the road yet, but I do have us winning. I do have us covering in this game. I have a final score of 38-24. I just look at it from the perspective of where do I feel UVA's offense is, right? UVA week 5 with 5 games under their belt versus Alabama week 1, where it was Ty Simpson's first start on the road. Their starting running back was out. It's a new offensive coordinator. Which one of those offenses is better? And I was like, the talent edge goes to Bama. But again, Virginia's offense is playing great, and they've had 5 games to get in sync. So we held them to 341 yards and 17 points. So I think even if you would answer that Virginia's offense is probably better in its current rendition, right, than week 5 on the road or week 5 at home versus week 1 on the road too, by how much? So to me, I think if we could hold Bama to 17, I think we should probably be able to hold Virginia, hopefully, to the mid-20s. And I feel like if you get over 30 in this game, you should feel good about winning. I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida State get in the 40s, the low 40s, if the defense does not, able to contain these receivers. But I expect it to be a really good game. I do expect it to be competitive, but I do have Florida State winning and covering, mostly because of what I saw against Alabama, and mostly because I do understand that I give Virginia a ton of credit. I just think, like, again, when you look at Stanford and you look at NC State and the way they played this year, if Florida State is what we saw against Alabama, and this will be the first time we'll find out whether we are or not. I didn't see that again. I didn't learn that against Texas A&M and Kent State or East Texas A&M. This is the one where we'll find out if that's real or not. And if that was real, sure, I could see 41-17, right? But I think first game on the road, the juju factor, Virginia's offense is humming. I think 38-24. I think it's a pretty good game. I think the depth, the defense, and the speed allows Florida State to kind of pull off in the fourth quarter. I wouldn't be surprised to see Virginia take an early lead or to be even tied up at halftime. I just think Florida State pulls off in the second half.
For sure, Jesse, we appreciate all your time from Plant the Spear. Let the people know, let the fans know, Virginia fans, FSU fans may be listening. Where can they find all your stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys having me on. You can find us. Our website is plantthespear.com. You can find links to social media over there. All our podcast episodes are over there. All our videos are over there. We have written articles over there. Obviously, we're on YouTube as well at Plant the Spear. Follow us on social media, Plant the Spear 1 on Twitter. We're on Facebook, Instagram as well. Miami's coming up next week. We're not looking past this one, but, the trash talk's going to start flowing next week. So you're going to want to be on social media as well. But, yeah, man, it's a great time. I really appreciate y'all having me on here. I always love talking this. I'm looking forward to the trip on Friday night to Charlottesville, man. And I will say this, no matter what happens on Friday night, like, if Florida State really is a top 10 team, we talked about this on our show, from a Florida State perspective, if this game is pretty close, we talked about your schedule earlier. I think UVA can win 8 to 9 games if you hang with Florida State. And that's not a disrespect to Virginia, but if you hang right there with us and we smoke Bama, I think you can find 8 to 9 wins on the schedule. And I think Virginia can have a pretty good season. So, yeah, man, I'm really excited to see what Friday night brings.
For sure. Yeah, Jesse, we appreciate all your time. And that's going to wrap up our time with.
We lost Jack there for a minute. This is a every episode thing. Jack goes silent. I don't know what causes it. But,
That's funny.
Yeah, Jesse, we do appreciate your time, and we can't wait to link up with you tomorrow evening.
Yep.
Yeah,
safe
definitely.
travels.
And by the way, I will say if you're a Florida State fan watching this, or maybe you're a Virginia fan and you just want to swing by and talk some trash, we will be tailgating in the West lot before the game, right outside the stadium. I've already told Jack about it. I would love to have you guys come by and stop by and say hey. So again, appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to the trip to Charlottesville tomorrow night.
Yep.
All right, there you have it. Jesse Koger from Plant the Spear. Appreciate his time. He's always really entertaining and really good at what he does. I tell you, the film breakdown he does on his opponents is unbelievable. Me and my dad joined his show over at Plant the Spear, and he's giving us numbers. He gave me a number on Virginia. I never even heard. I didn't realize that some of the numbers that he was talking about Virginia. So they do such a good job over there at Plant the Spear, him and Michael. So be sure to go check him out over there. With that being said, we've got a couple minutes left here, guys. So let's give our quick thoughts on the matchup coming up tomorrow night or tonight for whoever may be listening, and then our final score prediction. So, Dad, I'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts? How can Virginia win, and will Virginia win?
Virginia wins if they can make a couple stops on defense, create a turnover. Virginia, for number one, don't turn the ball over. We got to. I think. I don't want to get
Be careful
away from. No, I don't want to get away from what's been winning football games for us. But I do feel like keeping the offense on the field for a little bit of time and keeping the defense off the field would be a benefit. Controlling, if we could win time of possession, create a turnover or two, I think we got a shot.
Jay, what do you got for us? What kind of thoughts you got?
Yeah, I think we got to limit the big plays. You know, you can't have guys running free in the secondary like they've done, and you know the players have been talking about that all week, and they say it's a communication issue, not a talent issue. And communication can be fixed, right? So, I expect Clary to get a lot more snaps. It should help with the communication on the back end. You know, I think this will be a good test. Will our lines be able to hold up? That's going to be crucial. You know, if we can establish the run against them, that would behoove us. But yeah, we got to limit the big plays, and then we can't have turnovers. We probably need to be, you know, +2 or so in the turnover margin.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned the miscommunication thing, and before I thought, you know, our safeties and corners were getting completely beat. I can see what they're saying though, because I've rewatched like a million times trying to figure out what's going wrong on these, you know, big passes that are being given up. I can see what they're saying in a sense of players aren't in the spots they're supposed to be in. If that's what they're talking about, we're not just completely getting toasted. It's just you're not playing the right zone. So that it's possible. I do hope that gets cleaned up. For me, bring people in the box. Let's blitz. Let's bring the house. Let's get to Castellanos. Let's contain Castellanos. Let's not let him get out of the pocket because he's even more dangerous as a runner than he is as a passer, in my opinion. And then also on defense, get FSU behind the chains early. If we can, you know, if we start the game on defense and we open up, you know, getting a tackle for loss on their run or even getting a sack or something, and then all of a sudden you're staring down 3rd and 8 or even 3rd and long or longer, I think that's huge. You get the crowd involved early on a 3rd down, and you know, and the secondary is going to get beat no matter what, I think. So you might as well bring 6 rusher. I think you could bring 6 at Castellanos. And with that being said, offense just got to outscore FSU. I mean, the offense has been good. I think they can compete, but FSU is going to score a lot of points. The offense also has to score a lot of points to compete with FSU. So with that being said, let's give our final score predictions and we'll wrap this one up. Dad, what do you got?
I said it on Jesse's show. I keep watching these videos from '95. It's giving me the goosebumps, getting me fired up. Something about bringing that top 10 Florida State team into Charlottesville on Friday night, national TV. I'm taking the Hoos in upset fashion, 33-31.
Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a score that means a lot to Virginia fans of the age of Jeff and I. But in the good side, the good guys win this one, 41-38.
41-38. My heart wants to choose UVA so bad, but as I've been going on this week, I just think, man, how are we going to stop this FSU offense? With that being said, though, I don't think fans, some fans, but fans of other schools understand how important this game is for the program of Virginia. Not just for this season, not just for ACC play, but for the program. Coach Elliott needs a signature win at home. And this would be a top 10 win at home if they could get it done. And it would be a turning point in the Coach Elliott era. And it would solidify him as the coach beyond this year potentially. And you know what? I'm going to pick UVA. It's going to be really high scoring. I'm going to take UVA. I'm going to go 51.
Whoa.
Maybe not 51. 49.
No, just stick with what you want to think.
Virginia
Say.
49. Florida State 45. 49-45. A
Woo.
lot of points. The points are
That's,
going
I'm
to be
gonna tell you right. That man, that'd be like that Chiefs Bills game from Sunday Night Football like 8 years ago. Holy cow!
49-45.
I think if we score 40, if we score 49, I think we win. I guess.
If we score 49, I hope we win.
If we give up 45, I think we're getting beat pretty handily. Man, that's a big one. Jack has no respect for the Florida State defense. Don't play this for the coaching staff over at Florida State.
I think I'm the last person that the coaching staff at Florida State is worrying about right now. With that being said, that's going to wrap up our podcast tonight. We appreciate all of you for tuning in here to the Cavalier Connection. Go check out the website. We got articles on there, thecavalierconnection.com, as well as the social medias on X at Cavalier Connection.
And can I have a quick plea to the fans? We're going to play this, I guess, to Friday morning. Fans, we need you to come out loud, proud. It needs to be like 95. I need it super loud. I said it on Jesse's show earlier. The one thing that can win this game for us are the fans, students. It has to be loud. You have to have a home field advantage. If you don't have a ticket to the game, I promise you can get one right now. Go online. SeatGeek's got them everywhere. Go to virginiasports.com. We need to fill the stadium up. This is an important game. This is a game changer for Coach Elliott, game changer for the football program. You have to come out and you have to be loud. I think the number one, the X factor in this game is us, the fans. I think we can make the difference. We can help lead to a false start. We can help lead to a holding. We can help lead to a pick. Virginia fans, I want to see us coming out like 95. I want to see a charge on the field. Please, Virginia fans, if you don't have tickets, please come. Go buy tickets. Let's fill this stadium up, and give us a shot to win the game.
And that's going to wrap us up. Go Hoos.
Go Hoos.